So I ask, don't you think it's cruel to force women to have their prenatal and postnatal care in different places and then give birth somewhere else? What about continuity of care and the need and ability to develop good relationships with doctors and midwives? And what about privacy? After all, giving birth is a very personal matter, and having to deal with different health care providers at various locations can't be of much comfort to expectant mothers. Mr. Speaker, for as long as I'm the member of Provincial Parliament, I want to see a general hospital in Alliston with as many services as can possibly be provided to the public. And I'm not alone in this view. As I said, with me today are over 200 people in the public galleries who have travelled from my riding to be here for this debate. They are hard-working, community-minded people who are very much representative of our area and truly passionate about the need to provide obstetrical care in Alliston. Our goal is to build the best birthing unit in Ontario, but we can't do that without the government's help. We're not here today to criticize the government or make this issue a political football. We are here to ask the government to give us a chance to prove that we can do it. In my 16 years as an MPP, I can say that today represents the largest group of concerned citizens that have ever come down from my riding to Queen's Park to show support for an issue. They are here, Mr. Speaker, to show the government that our community is united in its determination to reopen the birthing unit. After all, as our slogan says, our babies deserve to be born in Alliston. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further debate. I recognize the Deputy Leader of the Official Opposition.
Very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to congratulate the member for Simcoe Grey. He is a former Minister of Health, and he has fought passionately for 16, 17 years in this legislature on behalf of the people in the riding that he represents. But certainly this is one of the issues that has been one for him that he has been most passionate about, and that is to ensure that women and families in his community continue to have access to the birthing unit and the obstetrical care that is needed as close to home as possible.
We're here today representing a rural community of Alliston and its surrounding municipalities who rely on essential birthing services provided by Stevenson Memorial Hospital. Our representation today includes expectant mothers, new mothers, fathers, babies, children, and grandparents. And in fact, today we have in our presence Elsie Arnold, one of the first female babies born at Stevenson Memorial Hospital. She's here supporting our hospital today. Thank you, Elsie. And we have our last baby born, which is with us today. And this is Marie Quincy, and she had an emergency delivery at Stevenson while our birthing unit was closed because the road closures and winter hazards did not permit her to get to another facility. Thank you, Marie.
And I'll tell you, to bring out more than 200 people from your community is remarkable. And I want to thank the people for being here and speaking out and letting the government know that you want to make sure that your children, your future generations, will have the opportunity to be born at Stevenson Memorial Hospital. Thank you for coming, and thank you to my colleague.
Thank you very much. Further debate. The member for Haliburton, Victoria Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to stand today to speak to the resolution put forward by my colleague from Simcoe Grey and to emphasize to the government it is a priority. You should have put it in the budget. You should address it. When you throw $20 million, over $20 million away recklessly at year-end spending, and here we have a community that only requires $1.4 million in new funding over the next 3 years for the birthing unit. You should be embarrassed that you have not addressed this situation because you've heard about it for a long, long time.
Thank you very much. The member for Simcoe Grey has 2 minutes to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I want to thank, as my colleagues have very kindly thanked the over 200 people that have come down from Alliston and New Tecumseh and Essa and Agila Tossaradio and Innisfil. There's some people here from Innisfil. And some people have taken time out of their work here in Toronto to come over today, too. I want to thank the midwives that are here and the doctors and physicians and nurses and staff at our hospital that do good work every day. I'm very, very pleased that the Minister of Health has joined us this morning. I have tried, as members have pointed out, everything possible to get $1.5 million out of you. This is a hard figure, George. This isn't a fudged one. Like so many other people ask for the moon and meet you halfway. A study has been done. We are awaiting, and I do thank you for appointing Jessica Hill, who was my Assistant Deputy Minister when I was Minister of Health and went on to be a Deputy Minister in the children's ministry, and she's highly respected. I do thank the government for appointing the provincial convener, and her report will come soon. I hope you'll take her report along with the report that was done by the Community Advisory Committee, a committee of the hospital board that was ably chaired by Sylvia Biffis. I hope you'll take those reports and consider our request. So I say to the member from Northumberland who said it must be a case of not having enough doctors around, we have 8 that want to come to Alliston. Alliston is the potato capital of Ontario. It is, with the green belt now in place, it is the place of choice for people to move to out of Toronto and into South Simcoe and into the Alliston area. Honda's expanding and creating another 1,200 jobs. There are over 7,000 people that work in and around that plant. They are young families. They are in their baby years, and they want to have their babies born in Alliston, and their babies deserve to be born in Alliston.
Mr. Wilson has moved private member's notice of motion number 55, ballot item number 1. It is the pleasure of the House that the motion carried. Mr. Wilson has moved private member's resolution number 55. All those in favour of the motion will please rise and remain standing.
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller.
Mr. Sterling.
Mr. Sterling.
Mr. Cleese.
Mr. Cleese.
Mrs. Whitmer.
Mrs. Whitmer.
Mr. Runciman.
Mr. Runciman.
Mr. Cormos.
Mr. Cormos.
Mr. Hardiman.
Mr. Hardiman.
Ms. Scott.
Mrs. Scott.
Mrs. Monroe.
Mrs. Monroe.
Mrs. Elliott.
Mrs. Elliott.
Mr. Willett.
Mr. Willett.
Mrs. Savaline.
Mrs. Savaline.
Mr. O'Toole.
Mr. O'Toole.
Mr. Prue.
Mr. Prue.
Ms. DeNovo.
Ms. DeNovo.
Mr. Ferreira.
Mr. Ferreira.
All those opposed, the motion will please rise.
Mr. Smitherman.
Mr. Smitherman.
Mr. Ruprecht.
Mr. Ruprecht.
Mr. Sergio.
Mr. Sergio.
Mr. Quinter.
Mr. Quinter.
Mr. McMeekin.
Mr. McMeekin.
Ms. Sandals.
Ms. Sandals.
Mr. Malloy.
Mr. Malloy.
Ms. Mitchell.
Ms. Mitchell.
Ms. Mawson.
Ms. Mawson.
Mr. Quadri.
Mr. Quadri.
Mr. Ramal.
Mr. Ramal.
Mr. Rinaldi.
Mr. Rinaldi.
Mrs. Jeffrey.
Mrs. Jeffrey.
Mr. Flynn.
Mr. Flynn.
Mr. Delaney.
Mr. Delaney.
Mr. Dillon.
Mr. Dillon.
Mr. Duguid.
Mr. Duguid.
Mr. Balkison.
Mr. Balkison. The ayes are 17, the nays are 18.
The ayes being 17 and the nays being 18, I declare the motion lost.